Hello, my lovelies. Welcome to Lady McCreepster's Night Noise Horror Podcast. This evening we have a tale from author Dopabean. There's not much that can be said about this tale without giving it all away. So, come, lean in closer, and we'll begin. When I was a kid, my family lived a few blocks away from a crumbling overpass. It was blocked off and partially collapsed, forming a dangerous makeshift tunnel. Naturally, all the kids in the neighborhood turned it into a secret hideout called the clubhouse. The secrecy was great for me. I fancied myself a budding hypnotist, but my parents were fundamentalist Christians who thought hypnotism was demonic. So I had to ply my trade in the dank underbelly of the abandoned overpass. To be fair, I didn't practice actual hypnotism. I was too young and too stupid for that. I was into the whole "you are getting very sleepy" shtick, preferably performed with gumball machine yo-yos or my grandfather's pocket watch. The other kids played along happily, barking like dogs, kicking like mad horses, and spilling their secrets as directed. Unfortunately, the overpass's tenure as hangout didn't last long. Half of us refused to step inside after Mary Lou Pimentel insisted she'd seen a deformed hobo lurking in the back. The rest of us gave up after the police found a dead vagrant rotting in the tunnel. The realization that we'd been playing yards away from a homeless stranger spooked us all badly. It especially traumatized my little brother Braden. Sometime after we abandoned ship, toys started appearing in front of the overpass. Plastic boats and keychains, broken Tamagotchis and stuffed animals swiped from graveside memorials at the cemetery. As if it was trying to lure us inside again. That was enough to make me give up on the clubhouse forever. A couple of months later, on the drive to school, I saw a big sandwich board standing in the mouth of the overpass. Candy-colored illustrations of yo-yos glimmered in the sunlight. Beneath were the words, "Come back." I shivered and wrenched around to get a better look, but the sign was gone. At that moment, Braden began to cry. Our 2-year-old sister, Madeline, joined in. "What's wrong?" Mom asked, bewildered. "I don't like it," Braden wailed, pointing at the overpass. "It's scaring me." His phobia descended out of the blue and grew exponentially to the point where we'd have to wrestle him into the car and endure daily screaming. The intensity, suddenness, and senselessness of his fits reminded me of night terrors. In Braden's defense, it was a creepy eyesore. If our neighborhood was a jaw, the overpass was a rotted molar, awaiting extraction. My parents tried everything, but nothing helped. He grew steadily more terrorized and hysterical. He started hitting Madeline, so he'd be grounded, because if he was grounded, he wouldn't have to ride in the car. Words like institutionalization and violent delusions were thrown around a lot. One day, I woke up and realized that my baby brother might not be living with me for long. "I don't know what to do," I admitted to my neighbor Chelsea. She had baby brothers of her own, so she understood the unique despair that engulfed me. We walked through the neighborhood every afternoon. It was the only break either of us got from school and families. Given the layout of the streets, our typical route took us right by the overpass. Against all reason, I'd been hoping to catch a glimpse of the yo-yo sign ever since Braden developed his phobia. It was stupid, but part of me was sure that the reappearance would mean a cure. "You should try hypnotizing him," Chelsea told me. I scoffed as the overpass came into view, dark and sullen against the bright landscape. "That was stupid baby stuff. It didn't actually work." "That's not true. You hypnotized me once. I cried for a long time." Chelsea continued to speak, but I didn't pay attention. The sandwich board stood in front of the overpass, bright and unmistakable in the afternoon sun. My heart quickened, and I ran ahead. The candy-colored yo-yos were the same, but the words had changed. "For you." Plied on the ground were cheap toys, sticky hands and silly putty, star-spangled bouncy balls, and translucent plastic animals. And on top of it all, gleaming like a gemstone, was a bright green yo-yo. I snatched it up and shoved it into my pocket before Chelsea could see. She approached, panting. "What is this?" "Hobo Santa left more presents." Chelsea gave an affected little shudder. "Let's get out of here." I followed her down the road, but I glanced back, unable to help myself. The sign was still there, benign and cheerful. "For you." I smiled. Maybe it was Hobo Santa. Maybe it was God. Whatever it was, it knew I liked hypnosis. It knew I liked yo-yos. And it knew Braden was afraid. I got home and found Braden napping fitfully on the sofa, cuddling a mound of blankets and stuffed animals. Madeline sat by his feet, wide-eyed and melancholy. Triumph and excitement welled inside me as I shook Braden awake. He looked at me blearily, grey eyes bloodshot and unfocused. "Bray," I said urgently, "look at this. Follow it with your eyes." I swung the green yo-yo back and forth. He tracked it obediently. "When I touch your shoulder," I said, "you're going to fall asleep." Back and forth, back and forth. I counted to 60 and patted his shoulder. His eyes immediately closed. "When you wake up, you won't be scared of the clubhouse anymore." The overpass filled my mind, a crumbled monument to urban decay that bled shadows. "You'll actually like it." In my mind's eye, the overpass brightened. Wildflowers replaced the shadows, and the mossy concrete became clean and smooth. No more fear. Back and forth, back and forth. I felt myself drifting, sliding into a pleasantly blank slate. I shook myself awake and said, "Wake up." Braden shot up, eyes wide with confusion and fear. Then he relaxed and smiled. To my amazed delight, his terror evaporated. It was like the last few months had never happened. For a few weeks, Braden paid the overpass no attention whatsoever. Until one Friday morning on the way to school. The sign was back. White sandwich board painted with yo-yos and another message. "Let's eat." Braden spun around and stared, mouth falling open. His eyes misted and his lip trembled. Then he smiled and settled back into his seat. Our parents left for a weekend trip the next day, leaving me in charge. Everything was fine. Madeline was calm. Braden almost preternaturally so. Just after lunch, Braden plopped down beside me and said, "Let's go play in the clubhouse." A small electric chill crawled down my back. Braden watched me with a bland smile. "No," I said. "It's too dangerous. Remember the dead guy?" "He's not there anymore." "No, Mom would kill me." "But I want to go. I told Madeline we were going to play in the clubhouse." "We're not going." Braden latched onto my arm, gorging the soft skin with his nails. "Let's go now," he screamed. "Let's play. Let's eat." I smacked him. The meaty crack made my heart stop. Braden froze as a red handprint blossomed across his face. Then his eyes filled with tears, and he ran upstairs. I knew what I had to do. I left Madeline crying on the sofa and rushed to my room. After several moments of frantic searching, I finally found the yo-yo under a pile of dirty clothes. It felt weirdly warm. I frowned, checking the clothes pile for the culprit. An overheated power strip? Or, God forbid, a rat? Suddenly, the yo-yo shuddered. I stared, confused and repulsed. It shuddered again, hopping in my palm like an oversized jumping bean. Then, it split. Plastic folding and wrinkling weirdly, and opened to reveal a quivering green eye. I hurled it across the room, then grabbed a dirty t-shirt and dropped it over the yo-yo. Before I could lose my nerve, I scooped it up and carried it outside. It twitched and jumped within the folds, making me think of a giant cockroach. I threw it into the trash bin and skittered away just as a sharp clatter sounded overhead. I looked up, startled, just in time to see Braden retreating from his window. I bolted into the house and tore upstairs. The second my feet touched the upper landing, Braden's door flew open and charged at me, knocking me down the stairs. I tumbled and hit the landing in an explosion of disoriented agony. Braden ran past, giggling wildly with Madeline in tow. She sidestepped me guiltily, pink skirt swishing behind her. And before I could so much as twitch, they darted out the front door. I forced myself to my feet and stumbled outside. The trash bin was overturned, contents gleaming wetly in the sun. The yo-yo was gone. Braden and Madeline were nowhere in sight. I reached the overpass a few minutes later, panting and wincing with every step. The sandwich board was back. No words this time, just a gleaming, candy-colored cascade of painted yo-yos. The entrance loomed behind it, soft and black and bleeding darkness. Fear reared up, threatening to tear me apart from the inside out. Then, I took a deep breath and went inside. I heard Madeline's shrill sobbing immediately. "Look," Braden snarled. "Look!" I found them near the back. Madeline lay crumpled on the filthy ground, inches away from a pile of broken concrete. Braden crouched before her, shoving the yo-yo into her face. "Look up! Look at this now! Leave her alone!" My voice echoed through the overpass like a commandment from God. Madeline fell abruptly silent. Braden shoved her away and smiled. "Did you come to play?" he asked in a brittle, bright voice. "If you didn't come to play, you'd better go." "Come here," I said, "right now." Without changing expression, Braden snatched a huge piece of concrete, far too big for him, far too heavy, and ran at me. I tried to run but tripped. He swung. The concrete collided with my head, heavy and horrifically solid, too painful to fully comprehend. The last thing I saw was Braden's face, alight with rage. Then, everything went dark. I awoke around dusk, sore and itchy. For a second, I couldn't figure out why I was slumped on the grass. Then, it all crashed down at once and I shot to my feet, stumbling as vertigo swept over me. My head pounded in time with my heartbeat, creating small, pulsing explosions of pain. I wasn't under the overpass. I was behind it. It loomed before me, a concrete hillock sprouting shadows and weeds. As I watched, the concrete changed color before my eyes. Red and blue, back and forth. It took a long time for me to realize they were police car lights. I ran around the overpass and skidded to a halt amid a tangle of emergency personnel. As I watched, 2 paramedics loaded a sheet-covered stretcher into the back of an ambulance. Without thinking, I darted forward and pulled it away. What the? No! A strong pair of hands grabbed my shoulders and forced me to turn around, but not before I saw what was on the stretcher. Tiny, bloated, and somehow soggy with puffy, mottled skin. Blood and thick black fluid stained the pink dress. A broken jaw swung madly, hanging from a string of pulpy sinew. Madeline. I screamed until they sedated me. Then I slept for what felt like days. Shortly after Madeline died, the city demolished what remained of the overpass and put the lot up for sale. No one ever bought it. We never found Braden. But I came back to town a few days ago. My parents moved a long time ago, but my friends lived there still. I met up with Chelsea at a nearby bar. Tipsy and high on the mild euphoria peculiar to lifelong friendship, we decided to walk around our childhood neighborhood for old time's sake. As we approached the empty lot, something glimmered, phantom pale in the darkness. A blank, white sandwich board. And taped to the front, a faded green yo-yo. If you enjoyed this one, remember to like this video on YouTube and leave a comment. If you're listening to this on the podcast, I'd really appreciate you leaving a rating on iTunes. This helps others find this podcast. If you'd like to support this channel, do visit patreon.com/LadyMcCreepster to learn of the various rewards available as a patron. Till next time, my dears, sweet dreams.